Catherine, it's a pleasure to have you on stage. For the one who've been to CTM before, you know that we tend to broaden our spectrum of speakers and not just get museum people, also get people that are involved in learning and education, but in a different way. Catherine, you've been at Nestlé for 40 years.
Yes, because at that time we were allowed to start as babies, just for you to keep this in mind.
And you started in the brand and business development and marketing, and now you are the director of Ness, with, if you didn't hear me when I was yelling, is a discovery center of Nestlé that opened a few months ago.
1 year.
A year ago now, in Vevey in Switzerland. And what's very interesting, and which is why you're here today, is because you have a very interesting approach to experimenting and kind of teaching visitors about the brand and its value and its history, but in a very playful way, let's say. And you worked with your agency, Tinker Imagineers. Unfortunately, Eric Barr, who's the director, is not able to join us today. But if you want info about Tinker, I'll be happy to send you contact details. Cool.
Thank you, Clémence.
I'll get you the clock.
Yes. So thank you for inviting me. To tell you the truth, initially I thought, well, I don't really understand why, I should give this presentation, because of course, as Clémence was saying, I'm not coming from the museum industry. I'm a business person, and I've learned a lot. And honestly, I was mentioning to Clémence that I have more to learn from you than, giving the speech today. And the other element where I've told Clémence, sorry, I don't think this is the right museum for this topic, is because when we developed the project, it was not, my view at least, was not about teaching, was not about educating. You'll see slightly later on what was the vision about, because there are so many types of learning that it would be very pretentious to have the recipe for educating people. And if I had it, I would not do something about Nestlé. I would really go for, higher, even higher, missions. So, right, left.
Just click on the green one.
The green one.
Yeah,
okay.
The big one.
So let's go.
Yeah. What were the challenges?
What was the challenge at the time we thought about having? The other element also is I've been struggling with my team for almost a year, not to call it museum, but I had to give in because people understand it better with a word. So the challenge is the following. I don't know how familiar many of you are with the Nestlé company. This is the current logo. Once upon a time, there was a German gentleman called Heinrich Nestlé who left Germany for political reason, by the way, and came to France, the country of freedom, and then moved to the Swiss-speaking part of Switzerland. Of course, he was speaking German. He could have gone to the German-speaking, but again, it was because it was about freedom, freedom of speech and freedom of undertaking, and he was a real entrepreneur. So, Heinrich Nestlé, first of all, his first gesture was to put an accent on the E, and he started to invent, to innovate, to tinker. He did a lot of things, and at the end of his life, or almost close to 60 years old, he finally developed the famous recipe that saved the life of thousands of children. At that time there was a major issue around infant mortality. And this is how he became very famous. And what he did at that time, not only invented the recipe, but he did something very smart as well. He had to print label for the infant formula tins, and he drew himself the label by designing the nest. You should know that Nestle in German means little nest. And he drew this nest. At that time there were 3 birds, by the way, and he signed with his name, Henri Nestlé, and he became famous this way. So today, we still have the same logo, although slightly revisited to go digital. I know there's a lot of marketing people as well here, so they know what it means. You have to simplify, the drawing. But we have become, in the meantime, Nestlé SA, and the A stand for anonymous. There's no more any human face associated to the Nestlé company, and that was the challenge. If you ask people in Switzerland today, where the company is based, there's a mixed perception. There's a mixed perception. On the one hand, it's an employee of choice. It's about innovation. I can tell you that we can recruit a lot of very famous scientists. Engineer loves, of course, working at Nestlé. There's still a lot of investment behind R&D, behind engines and so forth. But on the other hand, today we are a big multinational. Should I say a big nasty multinational? Of course, we are the icon of processed food. That's another issue. And more specifically, there's a number of debate around the water privatization. There was also the boycott in 1977 on infant formula. So, of course, there's pro and cons. And that's the challenge we had to confront. Corporate communication was no longer able to we were always criticized. And there was this feeling that maybe first of all, we could do something different, number one. And number two, we could have a chance to sort of expose the facts, go direct to the families, to the public, not only to journalists or stakeholders, and have a chance to just show the effort that we are trying to do to improve day after day. And that's how it came, and that was the challenge. Just for you, that's Vevey. That's quite an idyllic place. We understand why Nestlé, stayed his whole life there. And in 2011, just for you to know, we have historians. We have a team of 3 historians working on all that we have, documents, objects, and so forth, since the creation of the company 150 years ago. Huge archives. And they wanted to move. And because the 150 years anniversary of Nestlé was coming, the historian, Albert, came with the idea that we should organize a huge temporary exhibition that would last a full year for our employee, and that would sort of reflect on the 150 years of history of the company. And so he went to the chairman, and the chairman said, well, that's a great idea, but we'll make it permanent, number one. Number two, we'll open to the public, not only to the employees. And number three, not only about the past, but also about the future. So that's how it started, actually. This is the place. We, of course, we needed to find a place. There was the project was really becoming far more ambitious. There was a different scope, new animals, something that we're not accustomed to at Nestlé. And we were looking for a place. And quite obviously, the place was the original factory of Henri Nestlé. That's where it all started. That's a sort of magical place. I can tell you the thing that we have learned, that for a museum, it's like for any shop, you'd better be accessible and on high traffic zone, like Le Louvre, for instance. In this particular case, I had no chance to change the location, but it is a challenge, because not only Vevey is a small city, but if you come by train, it's easy, because at that time it was next to the train station and the river, for obvious reason. But today it's for a car to get there, oof. That's the way it looked when I took over the project. I joined this dream, because for me it has been a dream, in April 2014. And there was a project going on, of course, an architectural one. What we did was we haven't taken any architect, sorry. But we believe the content is also important. So we took the architect. It's an Australian architect, by the way, who's accustomed to build R&D centers, factories. All the Nespresso factories, for instance, were built by David Linford. So he was on the project since the very beginning, and of course, to get the permit, he had to submit also a project plus something inside. I took over in April 2014, and I was given a deck. For the first time of my life, I've discovered was a scenography. Again, I'm coming from the business, and had to read this. And that I remember because I've gone through it in one go. And the next day I was puzzled. I was puzzled because it was very educative, ladies and gentlemen. It was a bit boring. And it was very tutorial. It was a sort of one-way communication. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't say that was an annual report version 3D. Not very far. So that was April 2014. We were supposed to open June 2016. And I said, well, I think we have to go for another scenography because I felt it could be too one way. And we could have more critics than anything else. So what we did was to open for a new agency, and the new agency had 2 weeks to come up with a sort of reshuffled project, still building on some of the element that was linked to the building permit. And this is how there was an English agency, the Swiss agency that was already working, and the Dutch agency, Tinker. And that's how, we worked with Tinker. And the reason why we chose Tinker is because they were challenging Nestlé. Even within Tinker, there was a debate whether they should work for Nestlé, you see? And I thought that's the best agency then. If we really want to shift our perspective, then we have to be able to be challenged. So that's the first thing that Eric, and I'm so sorry that he's not with me today, because he should have said it in his own words. The first note that I got from him is, it's a corporate museum, a brand center, a corporate museum, let's put it this way, should not be a marketing center. And that's so true, and that was more or less what I was having so far as a project. Again, as I was telling Clémence, we have marketing people, we have brands, we have markets, and the job is done. And you don't come and you don't pay for a museum to see something that you can see on your TV screen. And therefore, the first thing was, yeah, that's true. We fully agree. We do not want something commercial. And I'm saying it on purpose because I have 40 years marketing. And it is true that many of my colleagues came to me to sort of push their brands, their products. And I said, no, it's not a platform. Do your job. This is not about brands. It's about values. And that's exactly what Eric also wrote. Those the next two sentences. It's a brand, and this is true for any exhibition of any museum on Earth. In our case, it was about brand values, but in your case, it could be about whatever you want to share, with your public. It's really a place where the culture of the company has to be turned into a personal experience. And I'm coming back to what I was saying at the very beginning, that I didn't want the place to be tutorial, academic, or educating I don't know whom. To me, my dream is this is a place where people should feel, perceive, experience, have a sort of holistic perception or values. They might adhere or not to it. It may not change their perspective, but it's not that we say it. And the second element is you have to be extremely authentic. It is true that there was no way we could make a sort of Disneyland, because it would not be right to the company culture. And the authenticity, we've pushed it to the last detail. I will give you one small example later on. Connect to your audience. That's a key one. I've seen before, in the collective intelligence exercise, of course, that's very key. Otherwise, people would not relate to it. So Nest, we call it Nest. We call it Nest very simply because that's where the whole company started, so that's the Nest. It's a nest of invention. There are many products that were invented here, Nescafé, but also the first milk chocolate in Europe, of course the baby food, and we also call it Nest because we felt that for our people, our employees, this is a place where they should gather. And we call it Nest because of Nestlé as well. And I personally call it Nest because as a marketing person, you know, it's always easier to go with only 4 letters, you know, for the logo. And in few words, Eric said, that's what it should be, Catherine. It's the open house of Nestlé. And it means a lot. It's far more than a metaphor, because whatever we do as a team every day there, it's an open house and we are welcoming people. You know, it's an open house where you have a huge space that is fully free, where we organize events and we invite, you know, the population in the city or the region. And there's a part that is, which is what we call the museum part, where you can sort of experience, you know, the not only the history but also the current issues and the future research of Nestlé. And this part, of course, you have to pay a ticket. But the two are, you can go to one side or the other as you wish. And here, I don't have so much time to really explain the way it has been divided. There's another element that was very key in working, you know, with Tinker Imagineering is, if you want to open, and if you want to open it, it's really about shifting perspective and really considering, and this I've heard as well, is really considering, you know, everyone's point of view. And this is a place where we wanted not only to speak about Nestlé, what we do, but how you can contribute and how the world can contribute to it as well. So there's a sort of circular relationship throughout the scenography from A to Z. And again, that's what speaks to people, and that's what speaks to the audience. As I've said, of course, there's the entertainment part, there's a small educational part, in particular around nutrition. I keep on saying that the journey starts with Henri Nestlé, but at the end, it ends with yourself, you know, because you start reflecting millimeter by millimeter on, you know, the way you eat, the impact, you know, on your body, your life. Now, what was extremely important as well is, remember I said that, of course, there is no human face to Nestlé, and one of the very important things to me and to Eric was making sure that there was this hospitality element wherever you would go. And I will give you one small example, because I had to battle somewhat, you know. There's no turnstile in our museum. There's no turnstile. You go to the front desk, you buy a ticket. If you don't want to buy a ticket, you still want to go to the museum, there's no turnstile. You won't be blocked. You are welcome. This is an open house. You know. Now, I tell you what, because the tour is fully audio guided, you will certainly miss most of it if you don't have the audio guide. But again, you will never be prevented to visit the place. So we organize a lot of events on top of, you know, the permanent exhibition, you know, again, to interact, to give back to the community. Authenticity is very key. Some of the exhibits, we have personal testimony of our research people, and I can tell you some of them are very, very, very moving and very touching. Yeah? It was difficult because people are very shy, modest, but it's also very impressive. And most of the visitors they say, "Oof, we were not aware, you know, of the importance." Why some of the people, they have chosen their professional career on a personal passion or personal issue. Huh? Very authentic is also the fact that there's a place where you would find, you know, the top 10 object of Nestlé, of which the oldest farine lactatine or the original recipe of the milk chocolate. Those are original objects. And I can tell you that there was a battle with the historian, of course, and we had to respect conditions and so forth, but it's all authentic. If you go to, we have recreated Henri Nestlé laboratory, and there again, all the objects there are authentic. But the thing is, you can feel it. It's weird. The atmosphere is authentic because you can feel it's not fake. And the other element also, that's one of the interesting parts in this museum, because of all, the debate around, the role of food company and multinational and so forth, there's a place where we've chosen to address the most difficult issues. We call it the Food Forum. And we have retained the 5 themes that matters today to families, which is really water, farming, agriculture, food processing, environment, and of course, nutrition. And in this particular area, of course, there's an interaction going on. And there again, we thought, because it's fairly deep, and we thought people would spend 10 minutes and would be fed up. And actually, they spend more than 20, 25 minutes, which is an issue because we only have 20 seats. And finally, the DNA. The 4 ingredients that we considered throughout the whole project development. It's about care, it's about enjoying, it's about trying to improve, and it's about sharing, whatever we do. This document is very important because, again, those are the values that is also driving, our team day in, day out, welcoming our visitors. And it's almost, our stars. Now, what I'm going to do is maybe, I don't have time to explain to you the whole project, but we can go through the video. It's a fairly short video that can give you a flair of what it is. Should I just press and it will...
It should be. And you can probably comment on it as it goes.
There's no... Okay.
Well, there's a little bit of
it's go very quickly. There's no music, sorry.
It should be.
So quick. There's a glass facade because it's open up. So it's all about transparency. That's Henri Nestlé laboratory. We have used very old... it's all multimedia. It's all digital. It looks like... this is the music. That's the... archive, what we call the archive, Zeitgeist. We always put in perspective to the big history what was happening in Switzerland and at Nestlé at the same time. You see old object, real dog. It's very contemporary, but at the same time it mixes extremely well the old and that's the forum. That's a famous place where people interact and see, the impact of whatever decision they make in their own personal life, to the environment. And then they vote. And that's the one that is dedicated to the future of nutrition. It's very innovative. It's very from time to time, it does not always work perfectly. That's the issue with technology. There's also an artistic dimension. There's artistic, there's true objects, there's interactive fun. That's the engagement where people can leave their message. That's the photo booth with old commercials, And that's the Café Henri. The restaurant is working extremely well, I must say. That's the structure that we created. What's also very interesting is, because again the idea was have the people feel and not learn or try to, the design of the journey is also helping the experience, because you really start into a black box, immersive experience, then you go one stair up, and then you get into something where you start having windows, you get to the present, it's becoming more round, more feminine, bright, clean. And then you move up to the future, on this structure, and it's all organic, open, transparent, and then. So it's really sort of helping the people understand, the progress of science in nutrition. Again, sorry, it's very frustrating, it's a bit short. Now, some of the results, maybe to end the presentation. I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, go ahead.
Is it okay? Or
Yes.
Sorry. What's very nice is, first of all, we had a good press, number one. The employees were extremely proud. They are extremely proud because they can take their families to Nest and they can show where they work and what we do as a company. But most importantly, the visitor feedback is pretty excellent. And I must say that the first word that is always coming is, oh, what a surprise, what a surprise. I don't think they were expecting, maybe they were expecting something more educational, and it is something that is more free flow and so forth. To be very honest with you, we had an expectation for the first year of 100,000 visitors, and we were able to achieve 60,000 visitors. So again, footfall has to be improved still. We have not made a lot of communication. It will come, but the word of mouth for the time being is pretty good. Thank you very much for your attention.